Our speaker this morning is Sarah Jiang. Sarah is a four-year boarding student from both Shanghai, China and Auckland, New Zealand. She is co-president of the Student Government Association, a member of the Student Philanthropy Council, and a Hill News editor. She's a proud member of Mr. Knos's advisory and the proud roommate of Ella Scott. Sarah.
Thank you, Chelsea. I struggled a lot with this talk. I think that graduation looming over all our heads put me in this predicament of wanting to give powerful and impactful parting words. But at the same time, I had no clue as to how to formulate or organize them. And as I began to feel frustrated with it, I kept coming back to the thought of I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. So I guess I could say that today I developed a hatred towards having to give this talk. Now, there is truly no use for anyone to argue that they have never felt some form of hatred. While my hatred was directed to giving this chapel talk, there are just too many opportunities to fall down this rabbit hole of hate. For instance, one may begin with hating that speck of dirt on their plate, which now causes them to hate how wobbly the table is. And now they start to hate that person that seems to be chewing a little too loud. And at this point, they've hit the rock bottom of this emotion of hate. And the more I entertained this train of thought, the more intrigued I was with truly how much we all hate. I began to question my perspective on many things, why I hated, how my hate came to be. Did I really hate, or was I compelled to feel that way? Whether or not my hate was permanent or just momentary. I began to realize that I actually hated a lot. But the one I felt the guiltiest of thinking was how much I hated Hill. I hate Hill, easily three of the most frequent words I'd used over my 4 years on and off this campus. What was worse was that it was largely true, and this just made the guilt worse. So I brought this conversation of I hate Hill to my mom, and we tried to think back to justify it. Before Hill, I had a perfect life back home. I'd built a great group of friends. I lived in a well-developed and safe neighborhood, and I had a lot of confidence in my school that I did well at. As I first stepped on this campus, however, there really wasn't much to love. The culture was different, and making friends was hard. Sure, I spoke the voice and acted like anyone else here. The thought of distinguishing myself amongst this group of people was intimidating. Those who were my up-performers walked on this campus with such ease and confidence. They appeared godly, and to take that time and to put that effort into trying to become anything like them was not only not worth my energy, but it also wasn't my place. To be this foreign student and try to assert my presence in this community seemed intrusive. And so I avoided standing out too much. This avoidance, however, made it so much easier to spew out the complaints and the negativities. So naturally, like any hateful person, everything and anything became the reason for my hate. That is, everything and anything other than me was to blame. Because I was too scared to walk in the dining tent alone, I hated buffet dinner and the salad bar in the pantry. Because I never tried to immerse myself in the different traditions and friend groups, I hated that people were so loud and so American. Because I knew that it was a privileged opportunity to attend this school, and I couldn't even make an effort to try and see what it had to offer, I hated that my family had sent me here. So, for the first 2 years of my time at Hill, I lost a lot of my positivity and spirit. At this point, I had no bubbly persona and lived 2 years with all types of frustration and hatred. Now, 4 years later, I think it's safe to say that I was able to find my positivity again. And so as I spent the last few weeks thinking about what to say so close to graduation, I remember that young foreign girl who once felt she could never love such a community. I'm so proud to think back and remember how far I'd come, that it was my family on this campus that somehow created a passionate and enthusiastic persona for a once timid and spiteful young third former. Somewhere along the way, the web of support from the people at Hill broke through my hatred. So I realized this emotion, hate. I think it's so powerful because of its convenience. And the more and more we entertain this emotion and thrive off of its convenience, the stronger it becomes. But hating just takes too much time. And frankly, that is too much time wasted. Now, I can guarantee that every person in this room has already said or thought we hate something between the time we woke up this morning and right now. And I will continue to hate the things I hate. I began by saying how I hated this chapel talk. I will still hate walking up the hill. I will still hate scraping off food off a plate. I will still hate hill. But today I've shifted my perspective on this hatred. I realized that half the things I hate, I don't really hate. It was just a momentary emotion, and it was just easier to say so. So as our days slowly count down, yes, I will miss so many of the things I love. I will never get to sit on a blanket on the quad again. I'll never get to make pancakes in the common room with my hall. I'll never get to take a long walk around the pitch. I'll never get to watch games and movies in the garden. But somehow, I find myself thinking about how much I will miss many of the things I hate. I will never get to hate a 7-day class again. I will never get to hate a check-in sprint down my hall again. Never get to hate waking up at 7:30 in the morning. Never get to hate that fear of 4 demerits. I realized that I did hate Hill, but not in the way that I had thought. Earlier, I briefly mentioned my many quote unquote I hate Hill talks with my mom. I think I am able to finally answer that, and here it is. Firstly, I do hate you, Hill. You made my life really hard for some time. Yet somehow, as time went by, a campus filled with encouragement and support began to poke at my miserable state. By chance, I discovered my people, whom I will live the rest of my life with. My most hateable years became the most formative life experience that made me how I am today. Secondly, I still hate you, Hill. I hate you for showing me lifelong friends who come from whole other universes that I would have otherwise never met. I hate you for bringing me my incredible advisor and advisory who sit in place of my family who couldn't make it here today out of China. They were the ones who sat with me at my lowest lows and celebrated with me at my highest highs. I hate you for my teachers who walked by my side and never gave up despite every setback. My dorm parents who welcomed me into their homes and looked after us like family. My coaches who supported as I failed, and failed again at almost any sport I tried. Our deans for putting up with this jumble of a third form class, it still managed to raise us into the graduating class we are today. I hate you for giving me the most special of memories that I won't ever be able to relive again. I hate you for the countless tears I will shed as I sit in my last class, listen to my last bell, put on my last blazer, eat my last meal in the dining hall. And I hate you knowing that once the class of 2022 leaves, and I will never be able to be in a place like this right here, right now, with each and every individual today, together at the same time ever again. The family boarding school. I cannot put into words how much I've loved the parts that I loved, but I also hate you so much that you've managed to make me love the parts I hated. Once we walk across that stage, shake that faculty's hand, take our diplomas, and drive off onto Beach Street to leave high school behind us, it'll be easy for us sixth formers to cry about the positives. But I think the way I've changed my outlook on hate has made me realize it's both the love and the hate that we will cry over. My final answer is yes, I hate Hill. because it made me realize I can no longer hate Hill. And this realization has stopped me from pouring wasted time into this emotion. It was too easy to let it temporarily blind the broader picture. I came across a quote that read, "You cannot see your reflection in boiling water. Similarly, you cannot see the truth in a state of hate. When the water calms, clarity comes." We pour so much time into hate that we don't realize how insignificant and silly it is until it's over. Don't let the convenience of hate be the reason you take for granted moments that you may one day regret hating and missing. Third, fourth, fifth formers, if you were to take any parting words, please take these. Don't hate too hard. Don't take for granted the countless traditions of the school, but if you also don't shift your mindset and attitude towards hate, one day you will realize that even the hateable parts of Hill won't be available to you anymore. And so I leave Hill having hated Hill. But as Coach Zoyer once said, even the parts that were bad were pretty darn good. Thank you.